Welcome to another episode of Trash Talk. I'm Jon-Bernard. This is Nick. We are the KHABIB brothers giving you the combat sports news from around the world. We're in Miami right now. That is the KC Arena behind us where UFC 314 will take place. We are pumped. It's Volk's return to the octagon, return to the featherweight division. Nick, I reckon it's been mad energy since we've been here.
As an Aussie fight fan, it doesn't get much better than Volkanovski fighting for a title. I think there was a stat. Volkanovski hasn't had a non-title fight in about 6 years or something like that. He's only fighting for titles. He's only ever fought for titles. He's the greatest Australian MMA fighter of all time. And right behind us is where it's going to happen. Like, we're literally going to that arena on Sunday Aussie time, to watch Volk reclaim the title.
And it's not just Volk on this card. It's the most stacked card of the year so far. There's been rumours that International Fight Week's going to be massive, but this is easily the most stacked. Co-main event, Paddy Pimblett versus Michael Chandler. You got Silva versus Bryce Mitchell. Bryce Mitchell's won the hearts of everyone this week. He's been hilarious. He just went off in the press conference this week. I think the tides are turning on social media. People are starting to love him. You've also got a couple other bangers, Nikita Krylov versus Dominick Reyes. Pitbull is making his UFC debut, coming in from another promotion. So it's going to be huge. It's going to be one of the best cards this year by far.
It's so good that Patricio Pitbull is actually the forgotten fight. Pitbull versus Yair Rodriguez is the forgotten fight of the card. But that brings us back to exactly 1 year ago today.
Yep.
Not exactly 1 year, but 1 year ago today, we were in Miami for UFC, I think 302 or 299. And that was probably the most underrated fight card of that year. 2024, that was probably the best card.
Why it was because you didn't expect that much from it. It had Merab and Sean O'Malley.
Sean O'Malley versus Chito Vera.
Exactly.
Had Dustin Poirier versus Benoit Saint Denis. I think MVP versus Kevin Holland was on this card.
Underrated.
It was
MVP's debut.
It was MVP's debut, so there was a lot of bangers put on that card, and they all delivered. Sugar Sean was one of the most brutal fights I've ever seen. Just total damage all the way through. So we'll see. Maybe the Miami cards are always the most underrated and put on the best shows. At least that's what I'm hoping for.
Well, let's go straight into the MMA hot take of this week. Everyone's talking about it on the ground. If Volk loses this match, should he retire?
No, definitely not. I mean, I can understand the argument. I can understand why people are calling for him to retire if he does lose, because
That'd be 3 losses in a row.
it's 3 losses in a row and he only fights for titles. As I said before, last 6 fights have all been title fights. So he doesn't fight anyone unless it's for a title. And if he does lose, he's completely out of title contention.
They asked Michael Chandler about it because he's had a couple losses. And he said
more than a couple.
More than a couple, especially in the UFC. But he basically said, listen, at the end of the day, he's fighting the best fighters in the world. Who has he lost to? Islam Makhachev and Ilia Topuria. Ilia Topuria, who ran through the whole division and relinquished the title, moving up so he can go challenge himself against Islam. He's no joke. So Volk is facing the best of the best. At age 37 now, he can retire if he wants. He's achieved enough. But if he's still got gas in the tank, I think he can still go. If he's losing to Diego Lopez, maybe you can start having the conversation. Fair enough. But again, he hasn't really lost to anyone except Ilia in the featherweight division.
No, literally, if you go through his whole featherweight career in the UFC, he's only lost to Ilia Topuria. That's why he's the featherweight GOAT. But I do understand why people are saying, if you're not going to fight for a title, why fight at all? But then there is BMF titles. There are legend fights. He can face Dustin Poirier.
Yeah.
He can face someone like Michael Chandler. He could still put on a banger fight, entertaining fight.
There's still good fights to be had.
It doesn't always have to be for the title. And I mean, if the UFC signed him to a multi-fight contract, he might want to see that money. That's all I'm saying as well.
I will say as well, with Volk, everyone loves him. The fans love him wherever he is in the world. It's just going to be sad to even think about his retirement. You've seen the memes. They're all the same. If Lopez wins this week, so I'll be depressed.
People unaliving themselves if he does lose.
Or, throwing their phones, breaking the TVs if Diego Lopez wins. Listen, no one wants to see it happen. We want to get back. We want a title back in Australia. Volk's going to do it, and he's not going to retire. The guy is that confident. He's in the best shape of his life. He wins this week. He says he wants to be active. He wants to face, Mozvaevalev next, and he wants to be an active champion at age 37.
And
the guy's a freak.
And he still talks about Ilia Topuria like he wants that fight back. He wants to get that win back over Ilia. So if it's a part of his plan, let it happen. But that does take us to our fight predictions, the official fight preview and predictions for UFC 314, starting with Patricio Pitbull versus Yair Rodriguez. How do you see this going?
Listen, we spoke to both men this week.
Great guys.
Gentlemen, absolute gentlemen. Patricio Pitbull, rocking the big cross with his whole crew. He's excited to make his UFC debut. He wants to make a statement, exactly the same as MVP last year when he faced Kevin Holland. There's a lot of UFC fans that don't know Patricio Pitbull.
Well, because it's from Bellator. I was probably someone that wasn't completely aware of him. Obviously, did my procrastinating and then obviously rushed study to know who he is before this fight card. But the guy's a championship double champ at Bellator. The guy is a freak. He looks like a freak. He's claiming that he's the best featherweight in the world.
And I believe him. He's got big aspirations in the featherweight division. He's even called out Volk for the $1 million bet they did at the press conference. He's very confident. Yair Rodriguez, yes, he suffered a few losses. He's starting to look very good. He says he's changed his whole life. He's changed his whole life into a regimented routine of getting up early, dialing in on his nutrition, training twice a day. A more regimented lifestyle. He thinks it's going to be a new Yair Rodriguez. Based off what I've seen and where these two guys are at in their career, I'm going with Patricio Pitbull to make a statement, and I'm taking Patricio Pitbull to win this one.
Talk about a banger of a fight. Yair Rodriguez, a former title challenger, someone who in that division is considered still a freak. He's still a great fighter.
He's looking ahead of this. He's saying, when I win here and Diego wins, it's an easy one for us to set up in Mexico.
Well, he's actually talking about how he's going at Diego not being Mexican, doesn't like him being referred to as a Mexican, and he's looking forward to fighting him. And if people from Mexico claim him, well, then he's just going to be dirty and he's going to make sure that he's going to be the Mexican that wins. Mm-hmm. So he does seem extremely confident. But I'm with you. I'm with the Pitbull here. I'm with Patricio. The guy just looks like he's better. He looks a bit thicker, looks a bit stronger. He's the king. He said, I want to be called the emperor. And I think he's going to get it done. I just think that's the way it's going to be. It's always hard when you got UFC versus Bellator.
Yeah.
But usually when they do bring someone in from Bellator, it's because they're the king over there. They're the best. And if they're bringing them here, they're there to prove a point. They got to get a win in their first fight.
He's not forgotten about. I think it's going to be a banger of a match. Could steal the show. There's a lot of matches up here that could steal the show. Let's go on to this one.
Wait, tell me, give me a round prediction first. I just got to think decision.
I'm going head to head. I don't know. Look, Patricio could knock him out. Brazilian can do what he wants in there. I'm taking Patricio head to head, and that's in my bet.
I'm going to go Patricio to get the KO. So I'm going to take the finish. So not KO, he's going to get the finish. This fight will not go the 3 rounds. Patricio will get it done.
Okay, Nikita Krylov versus Dominick Reyes. Now, I wasn't that impressed with Dominick Reyes' last outing. Anthony Smith basically just said, please, just punch me in the face. Put me out of my misery. Okay,
he did.
We were there, we covered it. Dominick Reyes is a tremendous fighter. He's still taken to the bank that he beat John Jones, the only fighter to beat John Jones, fair and square in the octagon.
Well, when you asked him about it, he's like, well, that's something John will have to live with forever.
Yeah.
Knowing that I beat him. So I think Dominick Reyes still thinks that he's one of the best light heavyweights, and I think he's got a lot to prove.
I say that to all that to say really that Dominick Reyes is very confident. He says he's studied Nikita Krylov, sees him as one of the most underrated fighters in the UFC right now, and that's right. I think what they're doing in light heavyweight is great. Both of these men. But I just think Krylov is just a stronger, better all-round fighter. He's had some losses like against Jan, and I just think Dominick Reyes hasn't been too convincing in his wins, especially recently. I'm going with Krylov.
Look, it's a hard one because I don't know too much about Krylov. When you do look at his record, you look at the 9 losses, and you look at Dominick Reyes. Yes, he had the 3-fight losing streak, but he did almost beat John Jones, and he is on a 2-fight win streak now. He does look like he's back, and he does look like he's in very good shape, and I do expect him to put on a good showing, and I just can't back against him. I'm a big Dom Reyes fan. I want him to win, so I'm going to take him to win. I think it's going to go the distance as well. I think, yes, these guys are big and probably have heavier punches, but I just think the skill that they have will allow it to be a decision win.
I think Krylov's a better fighter than Carlos Ulberg, who is up there in contention now for the number 1 contender spot. Krylov, who had a good showing against Magomed Ankalaev. I just think if you stack up these guys' resume, yes, he has a few losses. I just think it's Krylov's time to start making a name for himself in this division. I'm taking Krylov to go the distance as well.
So we go different there. Okay, Bryce Mitchell versus Jan Silva. A fight that is most likely going to steal the show. A fight that I would say I'm most looking forward to. Even though there's a Volkanovski fight card, the build-up for Jan Silva versus Bryce Mitchell has probably been the most entertaining.
Well, look at the press conference. These guys were going at each other. Yes, there was some controversy surrounding Bryce and the comments that he said. Then going into this press conference, Jon Silva brings a globe earth and says, I'm going to knock you out so hard you're going to realise that you're spinning on a globe, right? Because, Bryce Mitchell's a flat earther. Then he starts the fuck Bryce Mitchell chant. This gets under Bryce Mitchell's skin. He's taking it personal now. They ask him, Bryce, this is going to be personal to you. He says, I'm personally going to whip his ass.
And look, Jon Silva, he's doing his own fair share of talking shit. Like he's been going at Bryce Mitchell.
And I can't understand much of it. It's in Brazilian, it's in Portuguese, but again, I can hear what he's saying when he's saying fuck Bryce Mitchell.
When he does say fuck Bryce Mitchell, you can see Bryce Mitchell seething. He's seething at it.
He's ready, yeah.
And then on top of that, just this week, Jon Silva has said he's going to have some brain damage after the fight. So he's looking for the KO. These fighting nerds, they do get the finishes. So Jon Silva is extremely confident. but I think he's pissing a few people off with his antics. I don't know. Some MMA Twitter fans, some people in the media, I can see they're not too happy with how he's carrying on. But I don't think that outweighs the hatred and dislike they have for Bryce Mitchell.
Well, Bryce Mitchell's coming in as a massive underdog in this fight, according to the odds, and that's why I'm taking him. Bryce Mitchell to go the distance or win. I'm going to take him head-to-head, but I just think he's the better all-round fighter here. People are just sleeping on him. They think John Silva's going to come out here, get the KO, make easy work of Bryce. The UFC might want this to happen as well, but ultimately, Bryce is going to be too well-rounded. He's going to have a better ground game. He can wrestle him when he needs to. You know, it's in John Silva's best interest to keep this on the feet. And Bryce Mitchell, I think some of his jiu-jitsu and his wrestling is very underrated, and I think that's where he's going to get the win and try and take him to the later rounds of this fight.
Look, my prediction for this fight, gun to my head, I would have to go Jon Silva, just because the fighting nerds are undefeated.
That's true.
I don't want to be one of those guys that just keep saying, oh, the fighting nerds are undefeated, oh, they're undefeated, but that is a fact. They are undefeated, and it's because they're supreme at what they do. Bryce Mitchell's a great fighter, but he has lost.
We really have different picks this week. A lot of different picks.
I'm just saying, but my pick, if I had to pick this, I'd say it's going to go the distance. I want this fight to go the distance. I expect it to be a banger. Yeah. Jon Silva said this is the people's main event. He's carrying this event on his back.
Yeah.
Now, I do agree with the first half of that. I don't think he's carrying this event on his back, but I do think this is the people's main event. This is a fight that people are going to be tuning into and want to see happen. Whether there's a finish, whether they want Bryce Mitchell to lose, there's going to be something good happening in this fight.
The only way this fight ends if Jon Silva wins is if he throws that Josh Emmett overhand knockout and catches Bryce Mitchell. Bryce is too smart. I don't think this is going to happen again. I said he's one of the most underrated fighters in this division. He fights smart. I'm going with Bryce Mitchell.
Hey, and look, we spoke to Bryce. Yes, he said some things, but he was extremely nice to us. We asked him, would you go fishing with Jon Silva? He said, look, he treats me like shit.
Yeah,
but
if he's going to keep calling him a fucking idiot and F this and call me that, you know, I won't go fishing with him, but I can forgive him if he apologises to me, and he would happily go fishing with me.
And he said he'll apologise to me, and I'll go fishing with him, I'll treat him well. And that's Bryce Mitchell. That's why he's a nice, forgiving person.
He's a gentleman.
He's a gentleman. He was great all week. I got positive things to say about him. The media did try to get him to bite in the media.
They were going at his social media
They were trying
posts.
to bait him, but he did say, no man controls me or controls what I say. No man determines what my thoughts are and what my opinions are. So he didn't take the bait. He remained reserved, and that's what makes me think he's zoned in for this fight.
He's very zoned in.
He's a danger pick, but I'm going to take that fight to go the distance.
It's going to be entertaining. Let's go to the co-main event. Paddy Pimblett versus Michael Chandler. This one, I think, is the hardest fight to pick. On the card, hardest fight to pick on the card. Reason being, Paddy Pimblett, if you look at his resume in his last two fights, Tony Ferguson and Bobby Green.
King Green.
King Green, okay.
Bobby King Green or just King Green?
Submitted King Green, took Tony Ferguson to the distance, right? And he probably should have finished Tony Ferguson. Michael Chandler, on the other hand, has kicked Tony Ferguson in the face, knocked him out cold. Michael Chandler has faced Charles Oliveira. You know, he's tested himself with the best. He wants to stay active. You know, had a very strong last round against Charles Oliveira. I thought he got dominated in the first two. But again, I just think Michael Chandler has been more active. The money has been flowing to Michael Chandler. But I just think Paddy Pimblett is too well-rounded. When you got guys like Demetrius Johnson saying Paddy Pimblett, Tom Aspinall saying Paddy Pimblett, they just think he's very acrobatic, he's very flexible, and can take, you know, Michael Chandler down wherever he is, you know, inside the octagon. So with that in mind, I'm taking Paddy Pimblett to win by decision.
Okay, I disagree, but I'll go into it first. Look, there's a lot of narratives going into this fight.
Yeah.
Whether it's, you know, the young blood versus the old blood, the young generation versus the old generation, Paddy Pimblett, the young up-and-comer versus Michael Chandler.
He's a veteran killer.
He's a veteran, but he's the veteran that is in tip-top shape. It's also someone who's an athletic freak, training freak, keeps himself in tip-top shape all the time compared to Paddy Pimblett, who lets himself go post-fight.
He's putting on 15, 20 kilos
He's
in between
proud of it as well.
fights,
He doesn't hide it. He likes to eat pizza. He likes to treat himself post-fight.
He shreds down. Good on him.
Then he gets into camp and doesn't touch junk food. I like the discipline, but I do prefer someone that's always in good shape, always keeping themselves in top nick, because I just think that's better for you. And you can't make that argument that you're going to blow up, fluctuate. It can't help you. Then, on top of that, let's look at the quality of opponents. Yes, Michael Chandler has lost in the UFC, but who has he lost to? Charles Oliveira twice. He's lost to Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, perennial top 5 ranked UFC lightweight heavyweight.
He said Hall of Famers.
Hall of Famers. They are Hall of Famers, so he's not wrong. Who has Paddy Pimblett versed? Nobody's. He nearly lost to Josh Gordon in England.
But that's why he's taken this fight, to take on, you know, a top 5 contender, someone deep in the rankings, and that's Michael Chandler. And every time people have doubted Paddy Pimblett since the Jared Gordon fight, he's kind of proven himself.
Look, he has kind of proven himself, but again, Tony Ferguson on a 6-fight losing streak. King Green, you see what Mauricio Rufy did to King Green? It's just a different caliber of competition. Michael Chandler, even at age 37, he's still one of the best lightweights in the world, and I think he does want to prove that. He does want to prove it because if he does win this, he can have that fight to kind of get him back into that top contention.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm taking Michael Chandler to win. I don't know how he's going to win, but I do think he's going to get the KO if he does land those big overhooks that he's famous for.
I just don't think we've seen Michael Chandler be successful in the UFC. I don't think Paddy Pimblett's more hungry. He's just had twin daughters. He says, I've got food to put on the table. I've never been more motivated. He's in the best shape of his career, had the best training camp of his career. Paddy Pimblett says he's going to get it done inside of 2 rounds. If he sticks to his game plan, he's going to get it done. And I just think when other fighters stick to their game plan against Michael Chandler, they end up winning.
Well, look, Paddy Pimblett kind of went on a bit of a diatribe there of his plans after this fight. So he says he's going to beat Michael Chandler in 2 rounds. Then in Abu Dhabi in October, he's going to face Charles Oliveira or Justin Gaethje, beat them, and then get a title fight in 2026. It sounds like Michael Chandler pre-Charles Oliveira.
Looking at the big roadmap.
Looking at the big roadmap. Look, I wouldn't get too far ahead of yourself. You've got a massive fight on your hands here. And look, you might not win. I mean, I feel like he's already self-handicapping himself. If you hear Paddy Pimblett throughout the week, he's calling him a cheater. He says he's got dirty tactics. I'm going to make sure I talk to the ref and make sure Michael Chandler doesn't cheat in the octagon this weekend. It's like, listen, mate, you can't be worrying about that stuff. Worry about yourself. I think Paddy's a top guy, top fighter, but I just think Michael Chandler's the better all-round fighter, and I think he's going to get the W this weekend.
Okay, let's go to the main event. Like I said, it is happening behind us at the KCA Arena this Sunday, Sydney time. Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez. Now, Volk has had a lot of time off.
Since last February, so just a bit over a year.
It's been a bit over a year. He said, he had thoughts about not coming back.
Did he actually say that?
He did say that with Ariel Helwani. He kind of mentioned, yes, he has plans to be an active champion after this, but at some point he said, I might not need to come back. I'm happy with what I've done. I've got a farm. I've got the family on there. I'm enjoying life. He's away from fighting, but he got the itch. He's finally back, gets given the opportunity to win, and now vacant featherweight champion now that Ilia Topuria has gone up, and he's going to bring a title back to Australia. I'm calling it right now. Volk has never been this motivated. He said it's one of the best training camps of his career. If you see the shape he's in, have you seen him in better shape ever?
Best shape of his career.
What
he
said
looks
to us,
shredded.
What he said to us in the interview, for his whole 16-week camp, however long it was, he has not touched one bit of junk food.
Alcohol, no junk food. He's dialed in. He wants this. Okay, there's probably a time where people don't know that Volkanovski was the greatest featherweight of all time. There's people now that just think he's a cook, he's a YouTuber, he's a chef, and they don't know how good he is, how good he was. And he says, look, I understand that. I understand people might not know how good I am, and they have reasoning for that. But it's on him, and it's his job to remind them of how good he was. And that's why I think he's going to get it done. And
Volk's come out and he said, I understand why people are doubting me. I'm coming off, 2 knockout losses. But if you really look into the details, he hasn't lost to any other featherweights other than Ilia Topuria, who's no longer in this division. To really put Diego Lopez on Ilia's level, you can't.
No one would. That's why no one would. So, why would all of a sudden people start thinking that he's not going to do what he can do? And people even make the argument in that first 2 rounds against Ilia, he did look good. And that was coming off the Islam knockout, 3-4 months before. This is Volkanovski with a year off, mind reset, body refreshed. He's ready to go. And I think, if you do look at his body in that Islam fight, he lost 12 pounds or 12 kilos in 6 days. Then in the Ilia fight, he just didn't look as peak athletic as he does now. He looks like he's the most optimal level he's ever been at, whether it's been the no alcohol, whether it's been the no junk food. He was even talking to us before, talking I'm going to make weight. This is easy. I know I'm going to make it. It's going to be an easy weight cut. I can maybe have a piece of chocolate or something. I don't know if he was teasing us, but he was saying that he could have a piece of chocolate. That's how good his weight cut's going. That's how good his training camp is going. But I don't know. I just think he's that dialed in. I can't see him not getting it done. And I don't want it to be Aussie bias. I just don't think...
It's no Aussie bias at all. I'll tell you right now, if I thought he was getting knocked out, I would say it to his face. And we joke with Volk, saying, his chin's going to hold up all right. The guy's very confident right now. He says no one is prepared better for him. He's going to bring a title back and he's going to be a defending champion. Australian MMA needs this. We need a title back. I know we got JDM fighting for a title next month, but to have it be Volk and to do it at potentially age 36, he's turning 37 this September, it would be unbelievable. It would be a great resurgence back into the sport. And it's much needed for the UFC. Having Volk back deep in the pound-for-pound rankings, we need it.
And look, the only alarming thing that does concern me the over 35 curse. No person, no fighter over the age of 35 has won a championship fight, I think, below lightweight. So he does have the lightweight curse against him, or the featherweight curse against him in this championship fight. So look, proceed with caution if you are gambling or if you are putting a bit of money on him. But I'd say, I'd be confident.
I'm not sleeping on Diego Lopez. Guy's great with his he's great with his jiu-jitsu. Has knockout power. You saw the combinations he was hitting Brian Ortega with, almost putting him to sleep in the first round. The guy can fight.
You've seen him punching the pads as well.
You've seen him punch the pads like a psycho. If Volk gets into a close proximity of him, he's got to be very careful. Hopefully, he's not leaving his chin up as he's backing away into a corner. He says he can see that coming. He's going to be well prepared for it. I'm taking Volk, sticking to a game plan. My ultimate prediction, Volk to win by decision.
Yeah, Volk decision, easy money. Okay, but that now takes us
to news this week.
UFC 316, Merab versus Sugar Sean. It was announced, I think, a couple of weeks ago now. And people, when that was announced, were just going, oh, this is Dana's boy getting a title shot. Sugar Sean doesn't deserve this. You know, Dana's just always taking care of fighters that he likes. But recently, I'd say in the last week, the narrative has kind of changed. People are no longer saying Dana's been gifting this fight to Sugar Sean. Yeah. They've switched up and said they're gifting this to Merab. This is an easy title defense for Merab, and that they're just trying to let him rack up title defenses for a bigger fight.
Well, I really don't see...
Which side are you on here?
I think Merab, it is an easy title defense for Merab, and I think the fans have kind of caught on because Sugar Sean just really, unless he catches him with that Aljamain Sterling shot like we've spoken about before, I don't see him beating Merab. Merab is very confident. He was on Arul Hawania yesterday talking about how, you know, I've changed Sean O'Malley's life. I've made him a humble fighter. You know, he respects me now. He's not arrogant, you know, in the way that he talks about the fight. He's trained better, become a better human being, because of a more regimented lifestyle. So Merab and Sean, I think there's no beef between them. So it's just going to be a mutually, you know, here's your rematch. I'm giving you your shot again, and I'm going to beat you again. I think it's as simple as that. And not to say that the UFC don't want to see Sugar Sean do well. The guy's got a big following, you know, and he was, you know, his trajectory before his loss was massive. But he said, listen, I fought with injuries. I've never felt this good in my life since I was fighting in 2022. He's got his shoulder, injury all healed up. He's dialed in with his nutrition, dialed in with his training. It'll be a more interesting fight. But Merab is that confident. He's come out and said, look, I might even test myself in this fight and, you know, just see how my striking is. And just, I want to go toe-to-toe with him and just see how I go. Sometimes I'm crazy like that. That's what he said. So, look, I think it's easy, Merab. The fans can kind of see it, but you never know till fight night.
But I do agree with the fans that say this is more of a gift to Sean O'Malley.
100% it is.
Because Merab, who was he going to verse otherwise?
I think he's
kind of cleared through the division.
But I'd say there was more deserving fighters than Sugar Sean to
only
get the rematch.
Petr Yan was the only fighter that probably did deserve it a bit more. But in saying that, Sugar Sean is the more entertaining fighter. American, you know, fan base kind of will get behind him
and
more.
The way how the first fight went with how it was a kind of wrestling snooze fest.
And look, if you look at Merab versus Petr Yan first fight versus Merab versus Sugar Sean first fight, Sugar Sean did a much better job and put on a better fight. So you could say they had a closer fight. He probably deserved the rematch more out of that. But again, are you going to say that Merab is just getting an easy title defense here? I guess so, but it's like, who cares? That's what Dana does, what he wants to do. But he can't argue with Dana.
Now, this clip went viral on social media. Islam Makhachev was secretly filming KHABIB, laying down the law in his Dagestan training gym, pretty much telling off people for coming late to the gym.
I don't know.
He was telling off Tagir for oversleeping and not watching others in the gym. And he was raising his voice. He was getting angry. He doesn't want anyone in that gym cutting corners. Islam's just sitting there behind the camera going, people are getting in trouble in this gym here. And it is crazy to see how much these fighters respect KHABIB and how much KHABIB impacts these guys as a coach.
Well, look, I don't know why Tagir was biting back. I thought like the number one rule in these Dagestani gyms is don't go at the Nurmagomedov family.
Don't question Nurmagomedov.
Don't question, especially when it's KHABIB, who's arguably the greatest fighter of all time. Don't argue with him. And Islam, he found it comic. He was just sitting at the back.
Well, Tagir's going, I can't oversleep just once.
Yeah, he goes, no one oversleeps in this gym. And he was having a go at everyone for being lazy, for not doing their jobs. He was laying down the law. But the funniest for me was when Islam turned to Usman, the Bellator champion.
Yes.
The Bellator lightweight champion. He turns to Usman and says, do we understand and forgive? And he says, look, here in Dagestan, we don't forgive.
I don't forgive anything in this
So I think Tagir's going to have pretty hard couple sessions coming up after this video has been released. But I don't know, is Islam is it kind of out of place putting these videos out?
Nah, look,
if
anyone can secretly film inside a Dagestani gym, it's Islam. And he's put out content in Dagestan before. He's shown you the kid that came to spend 2-3 years, this Spanish kid. He's shown him putting him in a submission in the gym. He's shown people sliding in sweat in these Dagestan gyms. But ultimately, Islam is that caliber of champion where he's probably just as, if not more important than the coach in there. He's like a second coach to KHABIB in there. Well, I think he can kind of lay the law down himself in there.
I know there's a hierarchy and everyone would respect KHABIB.
Yeah.
But if you go on resume now, Islam's up there with KHABIB. So if you're like...
It's like you'd be listening to Coach KHABIB, but you're also going...
Islam knows what he's talking about.
I think I can handle myself.
Yeah, so like he probably is maybe with age and with a bit more star power... Maybe opened himself up a bit more, maybe a bit back at KHABIB. I don't know. I'm not saying it's happening. I'm just saying it could be happening. But I do think that releasing that footage, it's very un-Dagestani-like.
Yeah, I mean, be careful. I'm sure KHABIB probably got the shits that there was some leaked footage in the Dagestani gym.
I mean, if you're getting angry at someone for oversleeping, I think releasing some footage maybe that would be
KHABIB's very selective on who he lets train in the gym, who he lets in on his sessions. And then you got Islam just taping the whole session, taping the blow up. It's like the TMZ of Dagestan.
Yeah, I mean, like, Islam can do what he wants to. I think KHABIB knows that as well.
Yeah. Well, let's move on. I want to go through the top 3 knockouts in Miami in UFC history with the KC Arena right behind us. Starting with number 3, I'm going with Aussie Jack Della Maddalena knocking out Gilbert Burns. And why this one was special, Nick, everyone counted out JDM.
I thought he was done.
I thought he was done. He lost the first 2 rounds very dominantly. Gilbert Burns was controlling him, wrestling to the ground. I think he had better shots throughout those first 2 rounds. And then all of a sudden, JDM, after separating from a takedown, catches him with a knee and then eventually gets the knockout against Gilbert Burns. And this is what solidified JDM as a title contender in the welterweight division.
Look, knocking out Gilbert Burns in that fashion was just amazing. I think everyone in Australia instantly threw it up on their story, threw it up on every highlight reel. JDM really put himself on the map because going into that fight, he was still considered an unknown.
Yeah.
But then beating someone of the caliber of Gilbert Burns by knockout just raised him up so much.
And then on top of that, he did it with a broken arm. The guy, he had a broken arm during that match, goes to the back in pain, didn't get surgery straight away, flies home with a broken arm. The guy is ridiculously tough. It's Aussie strength.
One of the toughest bastards that there is out there. But that takes us to number 2 on the same card, Dustin Poirier knocking out Benoit Saint-Denis. Now, if you do watch that fight, Benoit Saint-Denis was probably supposed to win. He was supposed to out-grapple him. He was supposed to be the young up-and-coming fighter taking Dustin Poirier's ranking, but Dustin Poirier said no. He was piecing him up, kept shooting for the guillotine, unsuccessful, but eventually went in for the kill and gave him one of the most brutal knockouts of 2024. It was so special. It was gun. It's probably one of my favorite knockouts to watch. The punch and then the punch again while he's falling down. That's a killer.
We were live there for it. You can see this is my vision that will show on the screen. But it was kind of unbelievable because everyone was counting out Dustin Poirier as the underdog. This is a fight made to, pass the guard to Benoit Saint-Denis. And he knocks him out clean. Dustin Poirier still had hands. And it was a very brutal knockout. Benoit Saint-Denis, I don't think he's been the same since.
No, he lost again. And Dustin Poirier put on a great fight against Islam. This fight kind of earned him that title shot. So if you earn a title shot off a knockout, that shows you how good it is.
This brings us to number 1, Israel Adesanya knocking out Alex Pereira at UFC 287. So Israel Adesanya knocking out Alex Pereira at UFC 287. This one was nuts. He got his redemption, and no one expected it, especially after the first fight. But I almost put this rivalry to bed because they haven't fought really since.
They haven't fought since. They've become friends. But if you do watch the knockout again, they're going to show it on screen now. Him acting groggy, kind of fooling Pereira, then landing the big overhand left hook. That's what made it so good because he kind of acted. It was acting. He deserved an Oscar for the grogginess.
I don't know if he was playing possum or he did cop a shot, but he showed some great counter strikes. And, I've never seen Pereira treated like that in the UFC.
Well, he actually hasn't. No one else has done this to Alex Pereira. No one else has beaten him. I know ain't gonna lie, but no one's beaten him by knockout in that fashion. Adesanya, with the rivalry, with the motivation to get one back on him, to get one back on his oldest rival, that was a great knockout.
Yeah, one of the great second-round knockouts that happened in Miami, right behind us at the KC Arena. Hopefully UFC 314 brings us more action like that. I want to see more knockouts here in Miami tomorrow.
Okay, well, that takes us to our wrap-up We're talking WrestleMania. It's in 2 weeks. John Cena versus Cody Rhodes is the headline event. But CM Punk is main eventing over Jey Uso. I just want to get your thoughts quickly. Is he still main event Jey Uso if you're not main eventing either night?
Nah, he's opening the show, Jey Uso. He's not main eventing Jey Uso.
So his opening show, Jey Uso.
Open show, Jey Uso.
Open show, Jey Uso.
And why I say that is, look, he just doesn't deserve it. He is not the height, he's not the most over guy in the company right now. If his storyline was more interesting than Roman, CM Punk, Paul Heyman, and Seth Rollins, then he would get that spot, but it's not. And CM Punk deserves to close a show. I know it's not night 2.
I'm not saying it's not a main event.
He deserves to main event at least one night. There's rumors that there's going to be 15 matches across all WrestleMania. I think
that's a lot.
8 on night 1, 7 on the other. Like, it's going to be a lot of matches. So hopefully fans don't get fatigued, but ultimately it's going to build up to these main events. John Cena versus Cody Rhodes deserves to be the final match on the show, but CM Punk finally gets his spotlight. With Paul Heyman in his corner, the story is much more interesting.
Were you disappointed that the favour was just Paul Heyman being in his corner? I thought he was going to get a title shot out of this. I thought the favour was like a Money in the Bank briefcase, like, hey, I get to do something when I want, and you're going to make it happen, Paul.
I was a little bit disappointed. I thought it was going to be a title shot. I thought it was going to be maybe a match with Roman when he has the title, maybe building towards a SummerSlam match. Ultimately, the goal, I think, is CM Punk versus Roman Reigns down the line, and that could probably happen at SummerSlam. Who knows what's going to happen with Seth Rollins now? Is Paul Heyman going to align with Seth Rollins? That's the seeds that they're planning.
Paul owes him a favour because he didn't stomp him. That's kind of blackmail, but it's what happened.
WrestleMania is heating up. I can't wait to see what's going to happen there. I just feel like the build-up's been a bit more lackluster than last year.
Well, look,
we haven't seen The Rock enough. We
why.
haven't seen John Cena enough. It hasn't matched up to WrestleMania 40 just yet.
John Cena was on Raw, I think, last week. And he's not going to appear now till the Friday before WrestleMania. That's nearly like 2-3 weeks off television. Your main event of WrestleMania can't be off television 3 weeks before the main event.
He's filming Peacemaker. Hollywood, mate, it'll take it out of you. But now, I want to take us to our best bets, our best predictions for UFC 314 to close the show. Nick, what's your best tip for UFC 314?
I'm taking Michael Chandler head-to-head against Paddy Pimblett. If you really want to sprinkle a bit on knockout, take it, but just take him head-to-head if you want to play it safe.
Yep.
Take that into Jan Silva, Bryce Mitchell to go the distance with Volkanovski taking the win by decision as well. 3 legs, easy money.
Keep calling him Jan. It's John.
Jan?
John.
I think it's Jan.
Like Gene.
I think it's
like
Jan.
John Paul.
Jan Silva?
G-E-A-N. You've ever heard Gene pronounced Jan?
Yeah, but it's Portuguese. You got to say it in the Portuguese way.
I'm not saying it Portuguese. I'm saying it like John Paul. Jon-Bernard.
I think we'll...
it's John.
Okay. I'm going to keep calling him Jan. We'll ask him in person.
Well, my best picks for UFC 314, I'm taking Bryce Mitchell to win. I think it will go the distance, but I'm going to play it safe. Bryce Mitchell to win. Nikita Krylov to win head-to-head. I'm going to take Paddy Pimblett head-to-head and Alex Volkanovski to win by decision. That's my best bets for UFC 314.
Hey, we got a few different ones this week. I think this is going to be a test of who's got superior UFC knowledge.
I think you want to go with me. I've studied this card a little bit more.
We'll find out next episode. I'm going to tally this up and put our head-to-head numbers up against each other.
But thank you for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to @KRusBros on YouTube. Keep an eye out for the clips @Jon-Bernard K on Instagram and TikTok. That's all from us at Miami, at the KC Arena. Back to you in the studio, Ryan.